Hello and welcome back to My Own Worst Enemy. It's time to start turn number 9, the Battle of Eutaw Springs. So we're going to jump right into this. I think we pretty much know what's going on here. Only 2 turns left, so the turn marker is here at 9. I'm going to roll 2d6s, and with both armies being in the fatigued area on the army morale track there will be no modification, just a straight die roll to see who wins the initiative here. And it is a tie, and we know that with a tie, we simply roll again. So let's roll it again. So this time, it looks like the British have won the initiative. So we will start with the British. We'll flip our game turn marker over here. It's now 3 p.m. and the British do have the initiative, so they will start with movement phase, no reinforcements. Disrupted units may move 1 hex, so we do have 2 disrupted units. We have the damaged New York Volunteers up here. They are not very strong unit at all anymore. And this is the 64th, which I believe is also damaged. And it is. So they will each get to move 1. So where do we want to move those? Maybe we want to kind of move those towards each other into the same hex here to try to form up and help each other out. Maybe even have them form with the 96 here. Who is this? Yeah, the 96, which is not a damaged unit. So I think let's just have them move into this hex together. And I'm going to I'll just stack them on top of each other since they both have a disrupted mark or counter on them. So we'll know to check all the ones in that stack. So they can only move 1 hex and not worry about strength points there because they're both weak. Shattered units may not move. Pinned units may move. There's no pinned units. And now we just conduct our regular movement. So let's see what we want to do with the British. We probably want to leave the coffin stack right where it's at. Let's just take a quick look at the coffin stack. There's artillery in there. 2, 4. That's still a powerful stack. There's 6 strength points worth of units there. And then green is sitting here. There's artillery in there, and he's at 2, 4. I think the only movement we want to do really is move. Oh, let's see. Well, let's go ahead and zoom in here since I think everything's going to fit on the zoom in view so we can see everything close up. So let's zoom in. And that makes it a little easier on the eyes to see instead of trying to strain to see those units from way out. So let's see. I think we definitely want to leave coffin here. These 2 units, I think I'm just going to leave the Irish buffs here and move the 96 is going to move in with them. Try to surround or flank green there. And the only other units, British units, that I think I'd want to move would be back up here. Who do we have here? We still have our rifled unit is there. The horse unit is there, and then these are all full strength too, and then there's that light infantry. And over here we have rifled units. Washington's Dragoons are there, and Swamp Fox is way back there. So I think we are going to just move this stack forward and go after the rifled units there. So let's just move this stack forward. They were in that encampment, but now they're going to be right here next to the American stack. Maybe they can do something about that. And that's all the British movement we have. And so with that, we will go into the rally phase. And we do have units to rally here, so let's do that. So we will take our stack. I'm just going to split it apart. And we'll have to remember that they are in this fenced-in hex. So let's just start with this bottom one. This is the New York Volunteers. Now they are at -1 morale, but the army morale track is fatigued for the British, so they're at another -1. So it's a -2 to this roll. They are looking for a 5 or greater here. So we roll. Let's see, let's get the dice tower on the camera so we can see the roll. All right, looking for 5 or greater. That's an 8, so they pass. They'll lose their disrupted marker, which is good for them. And now we have who is this? That is the 64th. So we'll roll for them. Again, 5 or greater. They are also at -1, so they'll get a -2 to this roll. Well, that's a 9 -2, so they also rally. And they lose their disrupted marker. British are rallying back here. And both of those units are damaged, so they're Back in the fight though. Okay, and so the next phase is defensive artillery fire. So here the Americans do have an artillery unit in this stack with green. The question is, who do they want to fire at? Probably the coffin stack. Let's see who all is in the coffin stack. There's Delancey's at a +1, so they probably, yeah, let's just have them fire at Delancey. We'll put the stack back together with Delancey on top for now. And we'll get that artillery stack out. We'll just push green back for a second here. All right, so on the ranged fire table, the to hit table, we are 1 strength point firing adjacent to the target. So we're looking for a 7 here, or actually a 7 or greater. So we're gonna roll the American blue D10, looking for a 7 or greater. A 9, wow, the artillery fire has been really effective the last couple of turns. So let's see what that means. It's gonna mean we roll another D10. So we're rolling on the fire damage table now, artillery versus non-artillery. So let's roll. And we roll a 6 and a 6 on the fire damage table is a D result. And by now we know a D result is disrupted. So the Delancey unit there gets disrupted. And that's exactly what the Americans wanted to do here. So he's gonna have to fall back 3. He's going to come back 1, 2, 3, probably, yeah, he'll probably go right into this stack that just came out of being disrupted. I'm going to put him, we'll put him on top. Well, actually, you know what? We're going to put him on the bottom because he is disrupted now and not a whole lot he can do. And I haven't used one yet, but this is where if you're trying to keep track of disrupted units like that that are on the bottom, the game comes with these rally on me markers that you can put on top to indicate that in that stack there is a unit that is disrupted or shattered or something that needs to be checked. So let's put one of those on there. And then I'm going to put green back, and then we're going to check morale for those remaining units. And hold on, what am I talking about here? This is artillery fire, not close combat. So the only unit that's affected by that would be the Delancey unit. These other units do not have to make a morale check. They did not suffer the impact of that artillery fire. It was just Delancey. So that will conclude the defensive artillery fire phase, and we'll go to rifled fire, and we do have that to contend with. We have up here, we have this rifled unit going against the South Carolina rifled unit, so let's do that. So again, we're going to need the ranged fire to hit table, starting with the British. They are 1 strength, firing at a 1 strength from adjacent. So that's again 7 that they're looking to get. So we'll have the British roll their red D10, looking for a 7 or greater. A 9 again, holy smokes. So that's a hit. And we go now down to the fire damage table. We're looking at rifled fire. So rifled fire versus non-artillery. We'll roll again for damage. That is a 7, so that's a D result. And this is just like the artillery fire. Only the unit that was targeted here will be affected. And that reminds me, before I get too far into this, so the defensive artillery fire inflicted a disrupted result on this Delancey unit. So the British Army morale will drop down to 7. So it's going from 8 to 7. They're still in the fatigued box, but that will cause one drop in Army morale there. And this will do the same thing. So I'm going to drop it down again. I'm sorry, not the British, but the American morale will drop because the South Carolina unit was disrupted. So they're going to go from 9 to 8. So now the Americans are at 8. The British have dropped down to 7. So we are at 8 and 7, and morale-wise, and this South Carolina militia unit's going to have to fall back 3. And these just going to run back, we'll just say 1, 2, 3, back to the road. And we'll place a disrupted marker on that unit, leaving the Washington Dragoons there all alone. So that is rifle fire, and now we go into close combat. We might as well start up here with the rifle unit that just fired and these other units in the stack. So let's go into close combat with Washington's Dragoons. We get our strength points here, so it's 2, 4, 5, and Washington's Dragoons is acting alone, so it's 2, so it's 5 to 2. So 5 to 2 would put them on the 2 to 1 column, and the lead unit for the British will be, we got a +1 there and a +2 here, is it? So this will be our lead unit. And then Washington's Dragoons is, of course, the lead unit. And this is where Washington's Dragoons, being that they're alone, would love to withdraw, but because that horse unit is sitting there in this attacking stack, Washington's Dragoons cannot cavalry withdraw. So close combat will occur. Let's get the D10 out of here and let's get our modifier. So looking at the attacker, our lead unit, we've got an attacker morale of +2, -1 from the army morale. So the attacker morale is going to give them a +1. There is no leader there with the attacker. Any defending unit is a rifled unit? No. And I don't see any other attacker benefits here. So we go to defender benefits. So the morale for Washington's Dragoons is at a +1, but the army morale is a -1, so that's not going to be anything extra. There's no leader present. Any attacking unit is a rifled unit. So yeah, there is a rifled unit in that stack. So that's going to be a -1 to the roll. And let's see, they're not attacking across a creek. No terrain is involved here. So it looks like, no, they're not surrounded. Looks like nothing else will apply for combat DRMs. So now let's go into tactics. I'll get our solo tactics chart out and looking at the British. Are they engaging without a leader? They are. Withdrawal is plausible. So table 1, we've used table 1 quite a bit in this game. We roll a D8. So let's roll the D8. We roll a 1, and that is a withdrawal for the British. And now we will check for the Americans. I think it's going to be the same thing, but let's double check. They are engaging without a leader. Withdrawal, of course, is plausible. Yeah, table 1, roll the D8, and they get a 6, which is attack on echelon. Let's see. Yeah, I think we can see it's attack on echelon. And then looking at the tactical matrix, we have withdrawal versus attack on echelon. So -1 to the roll again. So tactics will give us a -1. So we have 1 +1 and 2 -1. So we're at an overall -1 to this die roll. So here we go on the 2 to 1 column with a -1. That is an 8, and an 8 -1 is a nothing to the attacker, but it's a disruption for the defender. So the British are causing a lot of disruption to the American forces here. So this unit is going to have to retreat 3 hexes. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and put a disrupted marker on that. So the morale for the Americans will drop again. So it goes from 8 down to 7. Now they're tied, 7 and 7. The British, the Americans are in the fatigued area. And so this unit must advance into that vacated hex. Now, do I want to advance those other 2? I think I do. They're going to follow along. They'll all just come forward with that unit. So moving on down, we have these 2 units now must attack. So we have 4, I think, in here. Yeah, 4. Coffin has 2, 4, 6. And we have this unit, which also has to be attacked. I think in this case, we're going to have both these stacks are going to attack green, but we'll pick one out of the Coffin stack to attack the North Carolina Brigade there. So 2, 4, we'll have Skinner's Greens engage the North Carolina Brigade. So we'll put it aside for right now. Just remembering that this unit is in this stack, but it will be attacking the North Carolina Brigade. The other ones, though, are going to be attacking green. So let's go through that. We're going to have to get our strength point ratio. So that'd be 4 from that stack. Artillery doesn't count, so it'd be 6, because there's the 63rd in there with 2. So we're going to have 6 strength points for the British. And I think, let's see, what does green have? 2, 4, so he's only got 4. So I said 6 going after 4, so that's going to put him on the 3 to 2 column. And we will get our modifiers here. So we got to pick our lead units. So let's pick our lead units. I think these were damaged, right? Yeah, so I think we're going to want one of these units to be our lead unit. There's only one we can choose, so it's the 63rd is at a +1. So the 63rd is at a +1, but Army morale currently gives them another -1 to that, so nothing for attacker morale. There is a leader present though, so we have Coffin is going to add a +1 to this roll for the leader. Any defending unit is a rifled unit? No. No shattered or disrupted units are there. None of these other things will apply. Defender benefits now, so we have the morale first. Our lead unit will have to be somebody out of this stack. Should have picked him first, but I didn't. So we'll just be the Maryland Brigade there at +1, so their morale will be 0 because of the -1 Army morale. And then green is there, so his close combat modifier is also a 1, so it's going to add a -1 to the roll. And I don't see any other modifiers that will apply here. They are in light forest, but that's not going to have an effect. So the last thing to do will be to get our tactics here, get the tactics table out. So the British are engaging with a leader. The opponent has a leader. Flanking is possible here. Withdrawal is, I guess it's plausible. Using table 9, rolling a d8. We roll a 4, so it's skirmish for the British. And so now the Americans, they are engaging with a leader. The opponent has a leader. Flanking here is not possible. Withdrawal is certainly plausible. Use table 7, roll a d6, okay? They roll a 6 on table 7, that's commit reserve. So commit reserve, so we have skirmish versus commit reserve, +1 to the roll for the British. So we have 2 +1s and a -1, so overall we'll get a +1 to the die roll here. So we are rolling on the 3 to 2 column with a +1. What is that? That is a 7 + 1 is an 8. So on the 3 to 2 column, an 8 is again, nothing on the attacker, but it's a disruption for the defender. We'll get these cards out of the way. And our lead unit, we had picked the Maryland Brigade. We plucked the Maryland Brigade out of there. So they're going to retreat 3 hexes. So they'll go 1, 2, 3. And they will become disrupted. And since this is close combat, the other units will have to make a morale check in this hex. All right, so let's get green out of the way. Now he will get to add his leadership bonus to this roll. Okay, so we're starting with the Virginia Brigade, which has a morale of 0. We get a +2 for green, but we're still at -1 overall, so we'll get a +1 to the roll. The Virginia Brigade morale check is 6 + 1 is 7, so he passes. And who's under here? I think it's the defensive, or not defensive, but the artillery unit will also have to make a morale check. So it's a -1 for Army morale, +2 for green. He rolls. Yeah, 5 + 2, that's certainly enough to pass the morale check. So these units will stay put, whether that's a good idea or not. So these units, these 2 stacks, where's my pointer here? This stack and these units attacked green. So now this unit, which is also in this stack, is going to attack the North Carolina Brigade. This is our next close combat in the line. And before I go too far again, so that was a disruption on that unit. So the American morale will drop 1 more from 7 down to 6. Okay, so we have the, what did I say? We now have Skinner's Brigade, strength point 2, firing at the North Carolina Brigade, strength point 3. So according to the ratio chart, this will be on the 1 to 2 column. The lead units are just that. It's Skinner's Greens and the South Carolina Brigade. And now let's get our die roll modifiers to this. The lead unit is at 0, but they're currently at a -1 on the Army morale track, so the attacker morale is going to be a -1 to the roll. They are with Coffin, so we're going to get to add his close combat modifier, which is a +1. And then there are no other attacker benefits, the defender benefits, the morale for that lead unit, 0, but the morale track for the Americans at a -1. We'll get another -1 or a +1 for defender morale. There's no leader there with the North Carolina Brigade. No other defender benefits will apply. So let's go into tactics. So the British are engaging with a leader. The opponent has no leader. Flanking is possible. Withdrawal is, I'm going to say not plausible here because they're in that, well, let's see. Again, it get really questionable with whether they would withdraw or not, and it's just a judgment call, really. They're in that stack of, with coffin there, with artillery and everything. I'm going to say it's not plausible. Just, we'll use a different table if nothing else. So it has to use table 6, roll a d8. On table 6, and a 7 is turn flank. Turn flank for the British. Now the Americans, a little bit different here. They're engaging without a leader. Withdrawal is certainly plausible here. Use table 1. Roll the die, and we get an 8, which is skirmish. So skirmish for the Americans. So turn flank and skirmish. And turn flank and skirmish is going to be a -1 to the roll. So that's going to give us 2 +1s and 2 -1s. So it's going to be just a regular roll on the 2-to-1 column here for the British. And they roll a 3, which is not very good. So that is a, where are we here? So we're on the 2-to-1 column and we rolled a 3. It's a pinned result. So this is a little bit different. I don't think we've had this occur yet, but we've had this one unit in the stack becomes pinned with the North Carolina Brigade. I'm assuming the other units here are not pinned since they weren't involved in that combat. So interesting. How are we going to show this? I guess we'll put, looking at the rules here for pin, now since this, like I said, the stack was split in who they were attacking, a pin marker is placed on all hexes involved in this close combat. That implies that the entire hex becomes pinned. There's a table here though on page 12 that has different cases, so let's take a quick look at that. So I think basically it's this case 1. It says the pinned units are 1 or more units in a single hex. So that would be in the coffin hex, and pinned against a single hex, which would be the North Carolina Brigade. All pinned units must attack the pinned hex. Other units may join the combat. So I'm going to put a pinned marker on top of this whole thing here. So I'm guessing that means that this stack would become pinned next turn against the North Carolina Brigade. That seems kind of weird, but I don't know. So let's get these cards out of the way. That's going to conclude close combat for the British. Put another pin marker here on the North Carolina Brigade. Get the dice out of the tower. So looking at this again, it's all pinned units must attack the pin hex. Other units may join the combat. So basically then what this whole stack would not be pinned. Let me grab the Skinner's Greens are definitely pinned, and they're still pinned against North Carolina Brigade. I'm going to put them underneath the 63rd and Coffin. So they would have to conduct combat with the North Carolina Brigade. The other units would not. All right, so that is going to end close combat for the British, and ending with the end of close combat is the end of the British turn. So I'm going to flip the turn marker now over to the American side. We're still on turn 9. And we will go back over now, starting with the movement phase with the Americans. Disrupted units may move 1 hex, and we have a lot of disrupted units to move. And up here, in this rifled unit, so I'm going to just bring the rifled unit forward in here with Swamp Fox. And then this is the Dragoons, or the Washington's Dragoons. Where do we want Washington's Dragoons to go? I'm going to have them come forward 1. And then this unit is pinned. This is Kirkwood. He's just going to come forward 1. And this whole stack of units, who in the world is in here? Hampton, North Carolina Militia. So all the units in this hex were not disrupted. It's just this top one. Hampton and the Palmetto Foot retreated. So we're just going to be rolling for the North Carolina Militia there. So, not rolling for, I should say, but he would move with Hampton. If we want to move Hampton and the Palmetto, we would want to consider that when we move. So they're at 1 and a -1 morale, and they're at 2 at the -1 morale. Would give us 3 strength points going after this stack, which would not be a very good thing. So we're going to move them into the light woods here. And then this unit, he's at 2 and 2. So he's going to move into the light woods here. And then this one's just going to move up 1. So that is it for movement for our disrupted units. And now we'll go to the rest. We're not going to move the pinned unit that is here. I don't think we are. Let's see. It caused our army morale to go down to 5, which is on the border, to wavering, which we don't want to do. So yeah, he's not going to move. But we might want to move Hampton. So that's 1 strength point. That would be 3 or 5. We're going to move, these guys are going to move under this disrupted stack. They're going to move under here, trying to reform into something that resembles a fighting force. If I can grab these units, we're going to put them on top of this stack. So they moved into the light woods. We have, who is up here? So the rifled unit was disrupted. Swamp Fox is sitting there not disrupted, but do we want to move Swamp Fox? No, we don't want to move him down there. That would be 5. We could move him around. We'll see. Come around this way maybe, or we could just have him sit there and hope that that unit rallies. Let's do that. We have green who could move. He's got 3. We could move him around here. So you can move from a zone of control into another zone of control. So I think that movement would be valid if we move green from here to here. Do we want to do that? I think we do. I don't think he wants to be between Coffin and that other stack. So let's just move green up to here. He's kind of coming around. And that's going to leave Lee's Legion down here. So I think what Lee's Legion is going to do is he's going to go 1, 2, 3. And that would flip the 4th starred hex, which would drop the British morale down 1. 1, 2, 3. Being careful not to enter enemy zones of control. 3. Be 4.5 to enter the light woods. 5.5 to end in this hex. So that's what he's going to do. So you can see the movement. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5.5. So that's a valid move. And what that will do is that will place another control or change of control, I guess, or basically entering another starred hex. So that's 4. And as soon as the Americans have entered 4 of those starred hexes, the British morale will drop. So they're going to go from 7 down to 6 on the Army morale track. And that is it for all of the movement we have. So the next thing we do, of course, is the rally phase. And we've got a lot of attempted rallies to make. We have, starting up here, we have the this rifle brigade. South Carolina militia. The morale's at 0. We're currently sitting at a -1. So they're looking for 5 or greater with a -1 to the roll. Is an 8, so that's a 7. They definitely rally. And then we come down here to, who was this? The Washington's Dragoons. They're at a +1, but there's a -1 Army morale, so they're going to roll. They'd get a 5, and yeah, that's enough. So it's a -1 and a +1, so this will come off. And then let's just go back to here. That is Kirkwood's at a +1. -1, so this is 0. And he rolls a 0, which is not what he wanted to roll. And then we'll come back to here. Let's just peel these off one at a time. Starting with the Maryland Brigade, they're at a +1 and a -1, so it's just a straight roll looking for 5 or greater. They get a 5, so that disrupted marker comes off. The next one in here was North Carolina militia, so they are at a -1, so it's going to be a -2 to the roll. And that's not enough, so they're still going to be disrupted. Let me grab this stack here for a second. I think, yeah, that was the only one that was disrupted, so I'm going to put him on the bottom. Actually, this unit rallied as well, so let's put him in there. And again, I'm going to grab one of these rally on me things because we need to know there's a disrupted unit in there. All right, and finally we have over here Pickens. He's a 0 morale, so it's a -1 to the roll. So he does not rally. He keeps his disrupted marker. So not as bad looking for the Americans now. We pulled off 3 disrupted markers, so that's a little bit better. And now we go into the defensive artillery fire phase. So we have, I'll just move these guys back here for a second. Now who does the light artillery unit want to fire at? We've got Kirkwood sitting there. He's got a +1 morale. And then this was the North Carolina Brigade, I think. He's stronger, so they're going to fire at, yeah, they'll fire at this pinned unit. So we have the light artillery firing at the North Carolina Brigade. So going to the ranged fire to hit table, we are adjacent and we are at 2 strength points, so 6. We're looking for a 6 or greater to hit. 9. I rolled the American D10, but it doesn't matter, so that's a 9. We'll grab the British for the results here. So it's artillery fire versus non-artillery is a 6, and a 6 is a disrupted result. So it's just the one unit there that was pinned. So I'm assuming these pin markers will come off because of this, which means that would unpin Skinner's greens there. And the North Carolina Brigade is going to go 1, 2, 3, and they'll get a disrupted marker. And that will bring down the Army morale from 6 to 5. So now they're on the edge of falling into wavering. This D10 out of here. And that will conclude defensive artillery fire. And now we go into rifled fire. I don't think we have any. They're up here, so nobody's in range of fire. It'll take us directly into close combat. And we have 2 close combats to resolve, it looks like. So we'll start up here with green. And it is going to be 3 versus 4. So that'll put us on the 1 to 2 column. Pick our lead units. So we're going to want the Irish buffs for the British. And wait a second here. I think I've included the artillery in that calculation. So the Virginia Brigade has to be our lead unit. It's the only close combat unit in there. So it's actually, well, it's not going to change anything. It's 2 to 4, so we're still in the 1 to 2 column. And those are our lead units. So let's go down and get our modifiers to this. So our American lead unit is at 0 morale, but -1 for Army morale. So the attacker morale is a -1 to the roll. We do have a commanding leader there, so that's going to add +1 to the roll. I don't see any other modifiers there. And looking at our lead unit here, it's the Irish buffs, 0, but it's a -1, so be a +1 for defender morale. I don't think there's anything else special in this hex. I don't think there's any other defender benefits here, so we're going to go into our tactics. So the Americans here are engaging with a leader. They have green. The opponent has no leader. Flanking is possible. Withdrawal, it is plausible. Table 5. Roll a D10. For the Americans, that is a frontal assault. All right, and now for the British, they are engaging without a leader. Withdrawal here is plausible. Use table 1, find the D8, and roll. That is an 8. That is a skirmish. So the attackers are frontal assault, and the defenders are at skirmish. That is a +2 to the roll. Yikes. So we are at a +2, 2 +1s, and a -1. So that's going to put us at a +3 on this die roll. So on the 1 to 2 column with a +3, oh my God, that is a 9. High as you can go is 11. So on the 1 to 2 column, an 11 is nothing for the attacker. For the defender, it's a step loss and an asterisk. I think the asterisk is a leader casualty, but there's no leader there. And then we have the circles. The attacker will gain momentum here for this. So all right, this was really bad for the British. So the step loss will go against the Irish buffs. And I don't think they're reduced yet, are they? Oh, they are. So that's going to eliminate the Irish buffs. Let's track all of our army morale adjustments here carefully. So we just lost the Irish buff, so it's a -1. So first of all, the -1 is going to cause the American morale to go up, so it goes up to 6. It's going to cause the British morale to drop, so it goes down to 5. And then the Irish buffs were eliminated. I'll put those in the eliminated box. And then I said that was a black circle, which indicates the Americans will gain a momentum chit here. When I'm looking on the board and the British already had one, so I gotta remember those are over there. And then, so there's no need to check for leader loss here, as there was no leader, but we have to do a morale check now for this 96. So we're gonna do that. He's at a -1, but another -1 for the fact of the army morale track is at -1. So looking for 5 or greater with, well, that doesn't matter because the -1 on the unit alone would have negated that. So he's going to have to retreat 1. So he'll pull back to here. And then our lead unit will have to advance. So it will advance into here. Everything is going to advance along. So let's just bring everybody forward. So that was a pretty good result for the Americans there. We'll get these cards out of the way. So next, close combat. Well, you know what? Is that Kirkwood? So I moved Kirkwood forward in the movement phase. He's disrupted. He can certainly move 1 hex, but he can't move into an enemy zone of control, so he really shouldn't even be there. He's supposed to be in this stack. He was in the woods, and that's where he should have stayed. Disrupted units cannot move into zones of control of the enemy, so he would have stayed there. So that's really all the close combat that the Americans can conduct. So with the end of close combat comes the end of the turn. So let's go ahead and zoom back out. So that will end turn 9. I'll move the game turn marker above turn 10. One more turn and the game ends, although again, I think the Americans aren't going to win, but who knows. We have scattered units everywhere. I think the British are succeeding in holding back the Americans. I mean, historically, the Americans got up into these encampment hexes and fire was exchanged between the plantation house and those Americans that were looting in there. And we really haven't seen that at all this playthrough. So we will come back and we will definitely do the last turn. Why not? We're here, so we'll see what happens. We'll tally up the victory points and see who's going to win this thing. So if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. And as always, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you back here next time.